Hey guys, good morning. Happy September. Oh my gosh, can you even believe that today is September 1st? Well, it won't be September 1st when you see this, but I am making you a video today because I am about to plant the lettuce that I sowed from seed on August 5th in my kitchen window with a little grow light and my Bootstrap Farmer starter kit, and everything has come along just absolutely beautifully. So these here are all of my starters. Isn't that incredible? Look how beautiful. Some actual big leaves here. Some of this is big enough that I could probably harvest it for sandwiches, because the one thing that I said to myself this year was I need to have my tomatoes and my lettuce at the same time. So this did really, really well. Now I have so many varieties in here. It'll be easier for me to show you when I pull them out and actually plant them into the bed where they go. I am a big fan of red lettuce. This looks like it's probably Vivian or Paris Island Cause here, which is a romaine variety. There's iceberg varieties, butterhead varieties, bib varieties. Love it. I love, love, love lettuce. And for those of you, oh look, I can see here's some flashy butter gem. Forellenschluss getting its speckles already. Oh my goodness. This is just incredible. You know, there are lettuces that have some nutritional values where lettuce isn't really considered like a highly nutritious food, but there are micronutrients in the greens. It's great fiber. It's a good source of hydration. And as I said, there are some micronutrients in certain varieties. I like to make sure that I get deep, rich red lettuces in every year, like Merlot, Lalo Rosa, New Red Fire, Red Sails. Oh, I just love lettuce. So I'm going to take you for a walk back with my little container here to the main lettuce bed and show you what it is that I'll be adding into the soil to amend the bed that really helps to provide a good starting system for this lettuce to become full heads. Now, while most of it I'm going to just do like a cut and come again, where I only take the leaves that I need through most of it. At the end of the season, anything like a bib or a butterhead, when it becomes an actual full head or an iceberg type thing, I will go after some of them late in the season and take out the heart and all, just so I can enjoy it before the weather takes it or some sort of an insect. Now, one of my concerns this year, I do have a big invasion of white flies back there on my tomatoes right now. That's probably going to assault my lettuce this year. There's not a lot I can do. I won't spray my lettuce. I'm not open to any suggestions about anything that I should spray on my lettuce. This is an organic garden. So whatever the earth decides to leave for me to enjoy is what we'll have. Anyway, let's take a walk back, go check things out and get started on planting these lettuce seedlings. Hey you guys, look who it is. You haven't seen this guy in a while.
Hey guys.
It's Farmer John. He is now amending our little corn bed area so I can come out hopefully today or tomorrow to sow rutabagas and turnips, daikon root, things of that sort. So we always really enjoy our autumn garden, and on half of this bed I'll be sowing all of my cabbage starters that are in the house in the window. So I'm doing different red cabbages, the 1 kilo slow bolt. You guys, if you're looking for a Napa cabbage, consider 1 kilo slow bolt from Botanical Interest. So that will all go in here, and that's something that we'll be working on today. So I still have green beans growing. Really cool. All right, let's go. So I'm back here in the area where I traditionally sow lettuce every year. I have expanded my lettuce growth to using the green stalk tiers as individual planters, and I end up with different varieties of lettuce in those now. But for those of you who know where we are in the back of the garden, you can see that I'm going to sow lettuce where I still have cucumbers growing on a cattle panel. This, you would never know by the way this looks right now. This was my most successful cucumber plant this year, but the vine borers were vicious. And then the leaf-footed bugs came. They all got intermingled in here and they literally destroyed my cucumbers. There's something really terrible about coming outside and seeing your baby new cucumber that you're like, it's like, that's going to be 3 more days and then I know I'm going to have a cucumber. You come out one morning and it's covered in a web of red leaf-footed nymphs, and they're sucking the life out of your cucumber. It's just terrible. So I should have done another succession sowing, but as usual, you know, we all have the best intent as gardeners, and then the season just gets away from us, and there's things that we just don't get to. So, but the lettuce year, the cucumbers this year was much better than last year. I actually have piles of them on my kitchen table that I will eat. So anyway, this is where I'm going to start the lettuce, and I'm going to turn you around and show you what it is that I'm planting with. This is a bag of worm castings that I buy from Costco every year now. This is a must-have. Last year I used this to sow, or to add in as a an amendment with my lettuce starters, and my lettuce never grew so good. There's so many, I think, just micronutrients in it. You know, these numbers here represent what factors are in a fertilizer, so that you know what the breakdown is. And all they're telling you is that, let's see, let's get you in focus here, is that it's 50% total nitrogen. So, and it's got some iron in it, which is good. But it's the nitrogen in this that works out the best for the lettuce, because anything that is a leafy green is going to want to have nitrogen. Same thing here with blood meal, source of nitrogen, organic nitrogen. I love the blood meal. It's great for getting anything started. All of these things that are on the picture are greatly benefited. It's a great benefit to them to have the blood meal because of the nitrogen. Everything needs a little bit of nitrogen to get started. But what really makes something like this fruit is actually bone meal. So don't be confused by that, to think that blood meal alone is going to get you stuff like this, but it will get you your leafy green portion. So with each starter, I'm going to add a little dab of this, a little dab of that. We're going to get it planted and well watered in. So I won't be showing you as I stick the plugs in, but I'm going to give you a peek through every step. One of the first things I want to show you as we get started here is, as you're growing so many varieties of lettuce in a small area like this, when they start to canopy, they get tangled up very easy. So, you know, as you're removing them from the tray, just, you know, be careful. And you might have, you know, this really requires two hands. You want to tickle it out just to make sure that it's not tearing off, because this does tear easy. Now, as you can see, these are 6 cell containers, and most of these lettuces, because I have so many varieties, I'm doing at least 2 succession cells of each variety with a tag on, so you can see what's growing. So now I'll line these all up so I can remember what is what, because they all look alike for the most part, you know, when they're here. So I'm always trying to determine what are the best varieties for me to grow. And while I have a few new varieties this year, these have been my staples. So I anticipate that something in here got crowded out and received no light, and is probably not even fully germinated. But lettuce seeds need light to germinate. Now I'm going to come back around to germinating lettuce seeds in a few moments, but right now I'm going to get started laying these all out and getting them in the ground. Now hopefully, okay, you can see, before we get started here, hopefully you can see that they have roots. When you start to tickle lettuce out of these little cells and pop them out, sometimes they fall apart and the lettuce can crash. But if it's got a good root ball to it, it will come back again and reset itself. So yeah, so let's get these in the ground. Now I have a little system here. I've been doing this for so many years, and my lettuce is almost always successful to some extent. So again, I have, you know, you know what? I have to stop saying, hold on for a second. Totally sidetracked on this as I caught myself saying things. I must be under some subliminal influence by something that I'm watching. It might be CNN, it might be something else that's in my back of my mind to say, you know. And I've noticed other people are doing that on YouTube. Now, I saw somebody else, you know, last night doing it, and I thought, how many times am I saying, you know? And I subliminally don't know, you know? Anyway, I could count probably 100 times I said, you know, in my last video. So I'm going to turn you around. I'm going to catch myself and try to stop saying, you know. Anyway, let's get back to lettuce. So each variety is going to get planted where there's 2 of each variety. I already found one that didn't actually germinate. Its little cells got squashed out of light. So this gets packed tight. Again, some of it is most of it is for cut and come again. So these lettuces are well on their way. I did realize that I have a few new varieties in here. I think it's over here. There's somewhere in here, Yeticool. It's a free seed from Baker Creek, which I'm always happy to have. So now that I have my plot laid out and I know how many are going to go into a row, I just plant them back and give them their name tags. I'm going to give them a little spoonful of worm casting and blood meal, and then the system goes, we're going to get on our way with getting that done. Okay, so I took one of these little cells. Now I have 6 starters of lettuce going. And sometimes you don't realize until after you start to pull them out of your trays, again, that some of them didn't do really well. Now this is the Lunix, which I buy from Baker Creek, and I absolutely love Lunix. It's a beautiful, dark red lettuce. Very, very crunchy and delicious in your salad. It has a lot of flavor and a lot of micronutrients because of its color. Now I'm going to go in here in between these guys, and I am going to direct sow seed. This is Rouge Diver, which is a romaine variety. Doesn't always germinate the way you want to. This year it's doing really well. And again, it's going to crash right now because it's coming out of its little pots and going into the soil. Outrageous is an oak leaf lettuce. And, you know, I'm putting little clues on here. You see how I put OL, so I know that it's an oak leaf. And this one I put ROM, so I know that it's a romaine. So it's just some little tips if you're trying to get, you know, a good variety of lettuce started. So now when I designated space, as you can see, these are going to get really big. I like to start lettuce inside in the window because lettuce seed can be a little bit hard to control. If you have migratory birds that come and peck through your soil, you're going to need to put up some kind of a net to keep your soil protected. But lettuce seed likes intensive moisture when it's getting started in these in a controlled environment, and the seed likes a lot of light. So it's important that you surface sow your lettuce seed. It's best to start this indoors, which is why it's been 30 days. Again, I started these all on August 5th. Today is September 1st, 2024, and this is how far it got. So you can see the benefits of starting your lettuce seeds indoor if you have a nice sunny window, or you can buy a small light that would go over your trays. I'll also have some tips for you in case you don't have any of that, how you can do this outside and get it started good and not worry so much about the predators on it. So I am just taking, you know, my little designated area here, and I'm staggering the holes. So you can see I'm between these two, I'm staggering a hole coming down here. So this is going to allow me to get 3 more varieties, 6 potential heads of lettuce in with good spacing. And now that I've made these little marks, I'm going to go ahead and amend them. So I'm just taking worm castings, which you can't really hurt anything with worm castings. And I'm not really measuring anything. Just adding some worm castings to every hole that I have just dug open. And I'm doing this with one hand, you guys, so bear with me because it's important for me to make sure that you know what I'm doing. Blood meal, on the other hand, can burn. So you want to use this a little bit more sparingly. So I just sprinkle it on to each hole that I'm planting in. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a mix up. And this is where my lettuce will go. Really very, very easy. You can do this in a pot, any kind of container, in a raised bed, or directly into the soil. It's going to be your call. Hopefully the bone meal, the blood meal helps to keep the slugs away. So I don't have any slug control down yet, but I probably should. Now moving on to Merlot, Brentwood, and red sails. Merlot I have from many varieties. I always get free Merlot seed from Baker Creek, which is wonderful. Brentwood I'm getting from Botanical Interest. This is a very reliable lettuce. It starts off green, but it matures into a beautiful dark red lettuce, perfect for cut and come again. Red Sails is a 45-day variety. You can see I marked my little sticker, 45 days. This turns into a beautiful big leaf red and purple. Oh, just gorgeous. So I'll just go in and make sure that they're not tangled up with each other. I put my finger through the bottom of these little holes and gently grab out my little starter plug. Okay, that ended up taking 2 hands. You can see that I have a nice little root system here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into one of the holes that I created and amended. It's got its little sticker here, so I know everything from front to back is going to be of the same label. Even though they're staggered, anything that's directly lined up with it, this is my system. Again, whatever system will work for you. This is how I'll know what is what. So we're getting well on our way here. Now when I sow these, I try to do it in a way where I have them grouped and knowing, you know, where my reds are and where my multicolored leaves are, and you know, this is just my personal preference. But next I'm moving on to New Red Fire, which is a romaine. Usually does really, really well, but at times it can be hard to germinate. And even though this looks like it has a good canopy on it, sometimes when you plant it in, it crashes and it might not come back. So again, it's important once you learn your varieties to go back and direct sow some seeds in with them, because lettuce packets have like hundreds of seeds in there. And a specialty item like Bronze Beauty will have less seeds than something like New Red Fire. I usually get mine from Botanical Interest. Bronze Beauty I get from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and Four Seasons I get from both vendors. So they're the next 3 varieties that will go in. Now some of these varieties that I am growing, I've doubled up because I realized as I was planting a full tray that I had cells open. So I went back and did duplicates of what I had already done. So you may hear me repeat a certain variety in case you're taking notes. I think Lolo Rosso is one that I've repeated because I absolutely love this variety, and you can get this through many, many vendors, including Ferry and Morse, Burpee, if you're only shopping from a big box store, but I get mine from Baker Creek. Cimarron, I get from M.I. Gardner, and I don't see this anywhere else. It could be out there and I haven't noticed it, but this is a wonderful red, bronzy red romaine lettuce. Solar Flare is also a romaine type leaf and grows really, really well for me. Very crunchy, long-standing. All of these varieties do really, really well against the cold temperatures coming, and I will have almost all of these varieties make it through even beyond frost. All right, you guys, we're almost halfway done with this big 4x8 bed here. So the next variety that I'm going on to is Forellenschluss and Flashy Butter Gem. These 2 varieties look very similar as they're growing. One has a deeper red to it, whereas the other is more yellowed with red speckles. But quite frankly, I can't remember which is which. They're very similar. I like them both, so I just go for both. Oak leaf lettuce. Oh, by the way, I do get both of these varieties from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and oak leaf I get from M.I. Gardner. It's the only place that I have found this variety. I've grown it for 2 seasons. It's a wonderful, true oak leaf lettuce. You can see everything's crashing out here from this heat. I highly recommend this one. They all grow really well in any container or, you know, directly into the ground. It's a happy to germinate, you know, early on. So with the right light and water, you will have oak leaf lettuces grow easy, and you will have them again well into the season. So here's one of these unfortunate situations where I realized that my Flashy Butter Gem, one of the cells grew really fast, squashing out the cell next to it. So I only have one very weak starter seed in here. I'll still go ahead and sow it in its full plug space, but again, I'll add seed next to it to encourage to make sure that we have plenty of this variety. Okay, so what actually happened with that Flashy Butter Gem and why, it wasn't because the light choked it out. When I packed the soil in, I packed it shallow. I overlooked it, so it didn't have much opportunity to really grow. So you'll know when you'll run into these problems. It will happen. That's why I sow multiple cells. Now, another thing that I want to talk to you about is when your lettuce roots become really crowded like this, you don't want it to become root bound or pot bound, because no matter how much water you give this, it will not drink. So when it gets to this point, you can can see it's crashing a little bit. You need to get it into the soil. Now, after I plant all these, I'm going to make sure that I give it a very thorough watering because the soil is dry. So, you can go the route where you water your bed first and then put your plants in, but it's a little bit muddy, and because I'm used to doing this, I'm doing it the dry method. You can do it where you water your bed first or your pot first and then get these guys in. Now, sometimes if you overwater the cells before you take them out to plant them, you can't get them out because it gets too mushy and the root ball falls apart. So you have to have a happy medium of when your root ball is too dry or too moist so you can get it out of its cell and get it into the ground. So now that I have half of the bed in, and it is a very warm day, it's supposed to cool off a little bit, I wanted to show you, because everything is, looking a little bit wilted as I'm planting here, I'm going to water in the half that I have planted. Now I'm trying to manage this left-handed, so bear with me. You can see I'm watering in, somewhat gingerly. I'm not like doing a big overhead watering on these little seedlings because the weight of the water will just weigh them down and they'll be all matted, and you don't want to do that. So you want to try to water them in gently to make sure that they get a nice drink without totally, matting down the top of their canopy or their head, that's, the leaf that's coming up. So you just got a good drink. I'm just watering this half. I'm about to drop the other tray, half of the tray in, but this stuff was thirsty. So this is how I do this until they're able to stand on their own, you guys. Once these heads are upright and they're past shock and they're standing on their own, they will get a big blast of water until the end of the season. Well, you can see that just that little bit of a drink as I've been planting has everything bouncing back. So I'm going to show you the rest of the varieties that I'm planting here in between while my neighbor's cutting his grass, so bear with me with the lawnmower. Again, I had mentioned I had new duplicates of things, so I did more new red fire, outrageous, another row of Lolo, Henderson's black-seeded Simpson. This is a beautiful lettuce when it grows. It does get very tangled in the seedling plug, system that I'm doing here. So as a gardener, you'll learn that you have to be patient. And this isn't a time, this is an opportunity where you learn patience because these things get so tangled up. You have to take them out very gingerly and patiently. On this side, I had a butterhead crunch that, again, got squashed out, and it tried to germinate, so I'll plant more seeds. This is another great variety, as well as Butter King. These are small, yellow, buttery, bib type of lettuces that are really easy to grow for cut and come again. I really, really love this variety, where you can let them grow full size and you can use them as, small heads for a salad. Great for individuals. Here's another row of Vivian that I did. This is a wonderful romaine lettuce. I absolutely love Vivian. Let's see where I put it here. My Paris Island cause has been giving me a hard time. And this is another romaine lettuce that I absolutely love, but the first year I planted it, it did great. Past two, it's been a little tough to germinate, so I'm gonna have to start again with that. So more Vivian, Arctic King, May Queen, Great Lakes are all iceberg style lettuces, as well as Ice Queen and Iceberg. Really great for turning into heads, and just be patient with these. Now the Great Lakes, I've learned, even though I'm waiting for it to turn into giant iceberg head, full heads of crunchy lettuce, as a cut and come again, it's very forgiving. It does wonderful and it keeps producing. You can see already how it wants to grow. So I highly recommend, out of all of these, Great Lakes is a wonderful, absolutely easy lettuce to grow. So yeah, I see some more oak leaf over there. So the Grand Rapids I got late in the season from Ferry and Morse. It seemed like it wanted to germinate, but it didn't. So I'm going to try again with these in another container. Then I have some new varieties in the house. So I'll be starting that all by itself in another fresh row of succession sowing for my seeds. So we'll get to that at another point. All right, you guys, you can see I have the whole bed in behind me. Now, I'm a hot mess. I'm absolutely filthy. It's sweaty. It's very, very humid here in New Jersey today, you guys. Listen, if this is the first time you're considering growing lettuce, you have to give it a try, because if you don't try, you'll never get there. A pack of seeds is so relatively cheap in comparison to buying a head of lettuce. Now, the thing that's important here is I believe in supporting our farmers and, you know, trying to buy locally. But in the winter, lettuce is something that gets shipped to us from other places, and it goes through many, many things, many growing practices, and different countries have different laws as far as pesticides, agricultural runoff, and what it gets exposed to. And then you have the element of people who are working and they're breaking their back as farm labor. And there's not porta potties, and there's no place to wash your hands, and there's people who are working in these massive fields from sun up until sundown, and they're often working in places where the crops are planted next to meat farms for cows or sheep or whatever they're growing, and there's runoff and there's things that intermingle, and lettuce is one of the dirty dozen. So your lettuce is always getting exposed to chemicals. It's getting exposed to E. coli, listeria, many things from runoff and just the practice of farming. And again, what is legal in one country and in another? I mean, you might think you're getting something organic, but you don't really know. And lettuce is so easy to grow for part of the year. You know, that you give it a try. There's no turning back to having fresh lettuce on your sandwich or in your salad. Now, depending on where you live, if you plant too early, you're exposing your plants to bolt. If it gets too hot, they're just going to bolt and go to seed. If it's too cold, you're never going to see it. So you have to learn your balance, not just in your zone, but in your growing area. Because lettuce is cold hardy and often frost hardy. So that's something to take into consideration. And there's so many varieties now that help you to work with those things as far as hardiness, slow to bolt and heat. Brentwood, that I told you from Botanical Interest, is very slow to bolt. That lettuce hung on for me into June. And so now I'm pretty sure most of this lettuce, more than 90% of this lettuce, is going to grow for me. So I watered it in well. I planted it today, even though it's a little bit warm, because we're supposed to get a cold snap next week, which will allow everything to settle in. And it's going to be in the 70s with nighttime temperatures in the 60s. So you want your soil to be cool. Now, if you're right on the edge of that, or your seasons change erratically, you could also put some shade cloth over this, and that will help to keep the sun off of it, and that will prevent it from bolting. But the main reason I got this into the ground today was it was supposed to rain today. So rain is the best source of nitrogen for a leafy green. Not to mention, it took about 30 days for me to get it to the point where it was. It was all getting very, very tangled. The roots were squashing each other out, and some of it didn't germinate because of that. So you have to know when your breaking point is. Now, there's some lettuces that do better where, because they get so tangled, that you really do want to just go ahead and try to sow them into the ground directly and not do starters. And if that's the case, I'm going to turn around and give you an idea. Let me show you this. Hang on for a second. Okay, so these little bins or containers you can get at the dollar store for, well, it's not $1 anymore. What is it, $1.25, something like that? Sow your seeds, put this over it. It acts like a cloche. And it will keep the birds off of it, but it will allow you to water and for the rain to get it, and you just ensure that the birds aren't coming through and scratching through the soil and stealing your lettuce seeds. So this is very, very effective. So in the areas where some of my lettuces didn't do well, and I told you that I was going to direct sow some seed into it, I'll just put these on top of it and make sure that it stays, you know, intact in the soil, because you have to surface sow it. Lettuce seeds need light to germinate, and they need to be kept moist. Lettuce is thirsty until it gets to a certain point, then it just works with the elements, and whatever the earth brings is what it gets, because we shut off our irrigation here. So, oh, there goes Farmer John. He's calling to me because we're working on a new patio. So anyway, my lettuce is all planted for the day, you guys. If you have any questions, please post them below. We get back to everybody. Thanks for spending this time with me. And there you go. Grow some lettuce. I'm going to go build a patio. See you later.